Alright, today we're hunkered down in the van high in the hills above the Rhondda in South Wales. But this video is a bit of a trip down memory lane for me. A couple of years ago, Alf and me were living in a different van, and I didn't have a beard, and we found ourselves in Somerset in the Quantocks. I was at a pretty low ebb at the time. I'd had a bit of a wrench in my life, to say the least, recently. And I didn't know what to do with myself, what I was going to, who I was, to be fair. But anyway, when I was about at my lowest ebb, I remembered where I was. And I remembered something else. Back when I was a teenager in the 80s, I got heavily into the band Aztec Camera. I liked them so much, I got the tattoo. And one day I was reading an interview with Roddy Frame, the singer, and he was talking about his influences, and one band stood out, The Clash. So as you'd expect, I got into The Clash, and I have to say that being able to wig out the tunes like Garageland was a big help as a teenager. Anyway, I was sitting there in this lay-by, having wiped up the last of the day's tears. I remembered that Joe Strummer used to live not far away, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to cheer myself up. I'm going to take the reins, I'm going to take control, and I'm going to go on a mission, and I'm going to find where Joe lived, and I'm going to pay homage to him and tip my hat to him. I went on the internet, and all I could find was a picture of the house and a rough location for it, which turned out to be wrong. I asked a few people, and they said they knew that he'd lived around there but couldn't tell me where. I went on Google Maps onto the satellite view, couldn't find it there. So there's nothing left for it but to just drive around the lanes in the van looking for a house that looked like the picture, which is what we did. And we spent hours at it. We drove around and no joy, couldn't find it anywhere. It got towards evening and I was getting hungry, and I thought, I'm going to have to call it a day. And I remembered that the whole reason Joe settled in the area was that he'd been to Bridgwater Carnival and fell in love with it. So I thought, why not go into town, buy some chips and see what I can find out there. On the way in, I thought, I might as well film this. So I did. And this is what happened. I hope you enjoy it, because for me, it was a pretty magical experience. Bridgwater is famous mostly for its carnival, and before he moved here, Joe Strummer came to one of the carnivals, and apparently the first float that came by was playing Rock the Casbah, and a few minutes later I think it was Should I Stay or Should I Go? And he shouted out, "This is a Clash town, I love this place, I want to live here." And then he moved here. Strummer was a champion of the underdog, and if ever there's a town that is the underdog, it's Bridgwater. So when he moved here, he wanted to do something for the community, and he put on a benefit gig at the Palace here with his band, the Mescaleros. It was about a month after that gig that unfortunately he passed away. The proceeds of that gig were used to set up a community film project called Somerset Film, and it was housed in a building called the Engine Room, which is still here, and it's right by my left hand shoulder. And there it is, the Engine Room, which now also houses a vegetarian cafe, which, being a veggie myself, is right up my street, so I want to go and have a look at the menu. Egg on toast, beans on toast, cheese on toast, mushrooms, tomatoes, vegan sausage, grilled tortilla, soup of the week, paninis, bread and dips, chilli, sausage casserole, dal, oh I love a bit of dal, selection of lovely teas, oh I wish it was open, I'd be having all of that. As a part of Somerset Film, the Engine offers open access to the general public and to professional filmmakers for equipment, space, facilities, drop-ins, courses and food. He was a top geezer if you ask me, and tomorrow morning I'm going to try again to do the closest thing to a pilgrimage that I'll ever do, and I'm going to find his house. Have a look at this. This entire valley is completely covered in wild garlic. The smell here at the moment is amazing. It's really, really heady. And I may well have to pick a load of this and stick it in a soup or something for me tea later on. Ideal. We're on the mission now, and it seems pretty clear from yesterday's exploits that Joe didn't particularly want to be bothered when he was at home. But we've asked a few people now, and I reckon I've got a pretty good idea where it is now. So I'm driving to the rough area, and then I'm going to walk in. I think, if the information I've got is right, we are now in the lane down to the house. But have a look at this. Where the last lane we were in was covered in wild garlic, this one has got loads of garlic mustard in it, which, let's have a try. Yeah, that is garlicky. Apparently it's not so good once it starts flowering, it goes a bit rank, but yeah, that's lovely, that's very garlicky. Right, to the house. Sometimes the fates are with you and the synchronicities are really on your side. I'm actually now walking back to the van, and the reason for that is that whilst we were walking down to the house, a car came along, and when it got alongside us, it stopped, and the lady inside wound down the window and she turned to me and she said, "I love your t-shirt." And I said, "Well, I guess that means you know why I'm here, doesn't it?" And it turns out that the lady is Joe's widow. So obviously I passed on my condolences, even though it's a long time ago that he died. But what she said, bless her, is that when she gets back, she's happy for me to go and do a bit of filming and have a mooch about in the back garden. And in the back garden, they've made a stone circle in memory of Joe. And they've also got his old car there. I think it's in some trees. So I am blown away. Talk about good luck. At the moment, I'm enjoying the immense privilege of standing in a bit of fresh woodland that was planted after Joe's death by his lovely wife Luce and Joe's friends and family. It's really taken really well. You wouldn't believe this was only sort of 18 years old, but this was a field, and now it is the Rebel's Wood. And if I pan round behind me, you'll see there is Joe's car. He fully intended to restore that and get that back on the road, but the best laid plans and all that, it didn't go that way. I can't really begin to describe how I'm feeling at the moment. Privilege isn't the word, really, it's beyond privilege. I mean, wow. Sat in the Rebel's Wood, next to the man himself's car. And I haven't had to break in. Here we are, look. This is where Joe and Luce would have sat if they'd had their way. Some car. Can't really imagine them driving this round the lanes around here, to be honest. It would have caused a right kerfuffle. Would have been well funny. I'm sure you can understand that I could easily spend the rest of my life in this very spot, but obviously I'm going to respect the fact that I've been allowed in here, and I'm going to move on. I'm going to leave the Rebel's Wood, cross the bridge, and go and have a look at the stone circle. Bless you, brother. I am so touched. What a privilege to be allowed into such a private and personal and special place. Absolutely gobsmacked. And Joe, thanks mate. I'm going to go and blast out Garage Land as loud as I can. Good on you, buddy. If you get a chance, then please have a look into the work of the Joe Strummer Foundation. They do a lot of great work in his name all over the world, and they really could do with your help. Also, if you enjoyed this video, then please hit the subscribe button. I've been very quiet on the uploads lately, but that's changing and there's a lot more to come. Cheers!